The legend of the Wendigo is deeply rooted in the cultural and environmental context of the Algonquin-speaking tribes who inhabited the vast, untamed forests and rugged wilderness of the northern regions of what is now Canada and the United States. These lands, known for their harsh and unforgiving winters, were both a place of life and a source of constant struggle for survival. The Wendigo emerged as a powerful symbol of the fears, challenges, and moral dilemmas faced by these indigenous communities, particularly in times of extreme hardship. For the Algonquin people, the land was both a provider and a threat. The forests were rich with wildlife, offering game for hunting, while the lakes and rivers provided fish and water. However, the winters were long and severe, often lasting 6 months or more, with temperatures plunging far below freezing. Snow could cover the ground for months on end, making hunting and gathering food a perilous and often unsuccessful endeavor. During these harsh winters, the Algonquin people had to rely on their skills, knowledge of the land, and communal bonds to survive. Food shortages were common, and starvation was a constant threat. It was in this context of scarcity and survival that the Wendigo legend was born, a tale that embodied the consequences of desperation and the breakdown of social and moral order. This is the story of the Wendigo, explained. At the heart of the Wendigo legend is a profound moral dilemma. What happens when the basic instinct for survival drives individuals to commit acts that are considered taboo or abhorrent? In the case of the Wendigo, this dilemma centers around the act of cannibalism, which was one of the gravest taboos in Algonquin culture. The Algonquin people, like many indigenous cultures, had strict social and moral codes that guided their behavior. These codes were essential for maintaining order and ensuring the survival of the community as a whole. Cannibalism was seen not only as a violation of these codes, but as a fundamental betrayal of one's humanity. The Wendigo legend served as a powerful warning against succumbing to such desperate measures. According to the legend, the moment a person commits cannibalism, they open themselves up to the Wendigo spirit. This malevolent entity, which is said to dwell in the darkest corners of the wilderness, is drawn to the act of cannibalism like a moth to a flame. Once it senses the violation, it latches onto the individual, slowly taking control of their mind, body, and soul. The Wendigo spirit begins to corrupt the person from within, feeding on their fear, guilt, and despair until they are no longer recognizable as human. This curse is insidious and soul-devouring, preying on the desperate and the damned. It strips away humanity layer by layer, replacing it with an all-consuming hunger and a monstrous, insatiable need for human flesh. This curse, deeply rooted in the beliefs of the Algonquin-speaking tribes, is as much a spiritual possession as it is a physical metamorphosis. Understanding the curse of the Wendigo means delving into the dark depths of despair, madness, and the loss of self. The transformation into a Wendigo was not just a physical metamorphosis, but a spiritual corruption. Once possessed, the individual would undergo a horrifying change, both in body and mind. Their body would become emaciated and gaunt, reflecting their eternal state of starvation. The transformation into a Wendigo is not an instantaneous event, but a gradual and agonizing descent into madness. The process begins with an overwhelming sense of guilt and fear. The individual who has committed cannibalism begins to experience intense cravings for more human flesh, cravings that grow stronger with each passing day. At first, they may try to resist these urges, clinging to the remnants of their humanity, but the hunger soon becomes unbearable. As the cravings intensify, the individual's thoughts and desires begin to warp. They become obsessed with the idea of feeding, their mind consumed by the need to satisfy the hunger that gnaws at them day and night. This obsession drives them to isolate themselves from others, retreating into the wilderness where the Wendigo spirit can take full control. The person becomes increasingly paranoid, believing that others are watching them, judging them, or plotting against them. This paranoia is a manifestation of the Wendigo spirit's influence, as it seeks to sever the individual's ties to their community and weaken their resistance. The Wendigo spirit also preys on the individual's deepest fears and insecurities, amplifying them until they become all-encompassing. The person begins to hear voices, often those of the people they have consumed, whispering accusations and curses. These voices are relentless, driving the individual further into madness. The Wendigo spirit feeds on this madness, using it to strengthen its hold on the person's soul. As the Wendigo spirit takes control, the individual begins to lose their sense of self. Their memories, emotions, and personality are slowly eroded, replaced by the Wendigo's primal instincts. They forget who they were, who they loved, and what they valued. All that remains is the hunger. This loss of identity is not just a loss of memory, it is a spiritual death. The person's soul is consumed by the Wendigo spirit, leaving behind an empty shell that exists only to feed. The Wendigo is not just a transformation, it is a possession, a complete takeover of the mind, body, and soul. This spiritual death is what makes the Wendigo curse so horrifying. It is not just a physical transformation into a monster, but the total annihilation of the self. The Wendigo is, in essence, a living embodiment of the consequences of losing one's humanity to base instincts and primal fears. The Wendigo curse is also believed to be contagious in a spiritual sense. Those who come into close contact with a Wendigo, whether by hearing its mournful wail, encountering it in the forest, or surviving an attack, are at risk of being influenced by the curse. They may begin to experience nightmares, hallucinations, or an overwhelming sense of dread, as if the Wendigo is always nearby, waiting to strike. This contagion is not a direct transformation into a Wendigo, but a spiritual and psychological infection. The person becomes haunted by the Wendigo's presence, their thoughts consumed by the fear of becoming like it. This fear can drive them to madness, leading them to act irrationally or violently as they struggle to resist the influence of the curse. In some cases, the curse may manifest in the form of visions or dreams, where the individual sees themselves as a Wendigo, feeding on the flesh of their loved ones. These visions are a manifestation of the Wendigo spirit's influence, as it seeks to weaken the individual's resistance and push them toward the act of cannibalism, which would seal their fate. Once the transformation into a Wendigo is complete, there is little hope of reversing the curse. The individual is lost, their soul consumed by the Wendigo spirit, and their body transformed into a monstrous being. The Wendigo's appearance is a grotesque manifestation of the monstrous and insatiable hunger it represents. Over centuries, the image of the Wendigo has evolved and been shaped by various tribes, storytellers, and cultural influences, but certain features remain consistent across the many versions of the legend. As the psychological transformation progresses, the Wendigo curse begins to manifest physically. The individual's body starts to change, reflecting the spiritual corruption that has taken root within them. The Wendigo is often described as being extraordinarily tall, towering over any human, with some accounts suggesting it could be as much as 15 feet in height. Despite its imposing size, the Wendigo is unnervingly thin and gaunt, its body appearing skeletal and emaciated. Its skin is stretched so tightly over its bones that it appears almost translucent, clinging to the contours of its skeletal structure. The ribs and bones are often visible beneath the skin, giving the creature the appearance of someone who has been starved for a long period, reflecting its eternal state of hunger. This skeletal frame is not just a physical feature, it symbolizes the Wendigo's perpetual starvation. No matter how much it consumes, the Wendigo remains forever emaciated, a stark representation of its insatiable appetite. This appearance serves as a grim reminder of the consequences of succumbing to the darkest instincts, where no amount of consumption can ever satisfy the hunger born from greed and cannibalism. The Wendigo's skin is another aspect of its terrifying appearance. In most depictions, the skin is described as having a sickly, ashen gray, or deathly pale color, resembling that of a decaying corpse. Dry, cracked, and peeling in places, with patches of rotting flesh. This decay is a visual manifestation of the Wendigo's corrupted and unnatural existence. It represents the creature's distance from life and the living, as it has long since passed into a state of undeath, a being caught between life and death, forever decaying yet never dying. Some versions of the legend describe the Wendigo as having patches of fur or matted hair. These patches are often sparse and uneven, further emphasizing the creature's unnatural and monstrous form. In certain modern interpretations, the Wendigo is depicted with long, stringy hair, often hanging in dirty, tangled strands that only add to its eerie, unkempt appearance. The Wendigo's face is perhaps the most terrifying aspect of its appearance. Its eyes are described as sunken deep into their sockets, giving them a hollow, haunting look. Despite being sunken, the Wendigo's eyes are said to glow with an unnatural light, often described as a fiery or icy blue, depending on the interpretation. This eerie glow is not just a physical feature, but a symbol of the Wendigo's supernatural nature and its connection to the spirit world. The face of the Wendigo is often depicted as gaunt and elongated, with features that are distorted and exaggerated, making it look more like a skull than a living creature. The cheeks are hollow, the nose is sharp and pointed, and the lips are either shriveled or entirely missing. The Wendigo's voice is often described as a mournful wail or a raspy, breathy whisper, a sound that is both terrifying and sorrowful. This voice is said to carry on the wind, echoing through the forest and striking fear into the hearts of those who hear it. The Wendigo's hands are elongated and bony, ending in sharp, claw-like fingers. These claws are not just for show, they are the Wendigo's primary tools for hunting and killing its prey. The claws are described as being long and razor-sharp, capable of slicing through flesh with ease. The Wendigo uses these claws to tear apart its victims, often dismembering them in a frenzy of bloodlust and hunger. The Wendigo's teeth, unlike the teeth of a human, are pointed and serrated, more akin to the fangs of a predator. These teeth are perfectly suited for their purpose, ripping through flesh and bone. The Wendigo's mouth is often described as being disproportionately large, capable of opening wide enough to consume large chunks of flesh in a single bite. This exaggerated mouth serves as a symbol of the Wendigo's insatiable hunger and its endless craving for human flesh. This physiology makes the Wendigo a master of its territory, ensuring that few can escape once they have entered its realm. In addition to this fear-inducing presence, the Wendigo possesses immense strength and speed, far beyond that of any human. Despite its gaunt and skeletal appearance, it is capable of tearing apart its prey with ease. The Wendigo's agility allows it to move swiftly and silently through the forest, often stalking its victims for long periods before striking. This stealth, combined with its ability to blend into the winter landscape, makes the Wendigo an almost invisible predator. The Wendigo is also believed to have a connection to the cold and the elements of winter. It can manipulate the weather, calling forth blizzards or freezing winds to disorient and trap its prey. Some legends suggest that the Wendigo can travel on the wind itself, moving from one place to another with terrifying speed, making it nearly impossible to escape once it has set its sights on someone. Another power attributed to the Wendigo is its ability to mimic human voices. This ability allows the creature to lure unsuspecting victims into its grasp by calling out in the voice of a loved one or someone in distress. Those who follow the sound often find themselves lost in the woods, only to be confronted by the Wendigo, who reveals its true nature too late for them to escape. In some variations of the legend, particularly in more modern interpretations, the Wendigo is depicted with antlers or horns, adding to its beastly and supernatural appearance. These antlers are often large and twisted, resembling those of a stag, but far more menacing. In addition, the Wendigo is said to emit a foul odor, a mix of decay, rot, and death. This smell is so powerful that it can be detected from a great distance, often serving as a warning sign of the creature's presence. The stench of the Wendigo is not just a physical attribute, but a symbol of its corrupted and unnatural state. It is a reminder that the Wendigo is a creature of death, a being that thrives on the consumption of the living. The smell is often described as being so intense that it can cause nausea or even incapacitate those who are exposed to it for too long. The stench clings to the Wendigo's skin and fur, a constant reminder of the countless lives it has taken and the bodies it has consumed. Hey everyone, just a quick intermission here. I wanted to say thank you for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. Did you know that over 80% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed to the channel? If you've enjoyed this content so far, it would be incredible if you could hit that subscribe button. It's a small gesture, but it really helps the channel grow and ensures that you won't miss any more of our fascinating stories we explore together. Also, if you're feeling generous, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share with anyone else who may enjoy it. Your support really does make a difference and keeps the content coming. Thanks again, and let's get back to the story. Despite its formidable powers, the Wendigo is not invincible. There are ways to combat and even defeat this fearsome creature, though these methods are known to few and are fraught with danger. One of the Wendigo's primary weaknesses is fire. As a creature associated with the cold and the desolation of winter, the Wendigo is highly vulnerable to flames. Fire is believed to be one of the few ways to kill a Wendigo, reducing its emaciated body to ashes and preventing it from regenerating or returning to life. In some traditions, burning the Wendigo's heart or head is specifically required to ensure that it is truly destroyed. Another method of weakening or driving away the Wendigo is through the use of certain traditional rituals and spiritual practices. Some Algonquin shamans were believed to have the knowledge and power to combat the Wendigo spirit, either by performing exorcisms to free a person from the Wendigo's curse, or by using sacred objects and chants to banish the creature from a particular area. These rituals were often dangerous and required a deep understanding of the spiritual world, as well as a strong connection to the protective spirits of the land. In addition to these spiritual defenses, some legends suggest that the Wendigo can be harmed or deterred by weapons made from silver or blessed by a shaman. The purity and spiritual significance of such objects make them effective against a creature that embodies corruption and unnatural hunger. Some versions of the legend suggest that the bond of community and the strength of familial ties might help a person resist the transformation if the symptoms are caught early. The afflicted individual could be surrounded by loved ones who provide care, warmth, and human connection, which might delay or even prevent the full transformation into a Wendigo. The goal would be to cleanse the person of the evil spirit before it fully takes over. Success in such rituals would be rare and not guaranteed. Finally, the Wendigo's curse itself can be seen as a weakness. The curse is not just a transformation into a monstrous being, but also a form of eternal punishment. The Wendigo's insatiable hunger is both its greatest strength and its greatest torment. It is forever doomed to starvation, never able to satisfy its cravings no matter how much it consumes. This eternal hunger drives the Wendigo to madness, making it a creature of pure instinct rather than reason, which can sometimes be exploited by those who know its nature. The Wendigo legend is deeply woven into the fabric of Algonquin culture, where it serves as both a cautionary tale and a profound symbol of the dangers that can arise in times of extreme hardship. For the Algonquin-speaking peoples, who lived in close connection with the natural world, the Wendigo was not just a terrifying monster, but a representation of moral and spiritual decay, a warning of the dire consequences that could result from greed, isolation, and the breakdown of social bonds. The Algonquin-speaking tribes, including the Ojibwe, Cree, and Innu, among others, inhabited the vast regions of the Great Lakes, the boreal forests, and the northern plains. These lands, while rich in resources, were also harsh and unforgiving, particularly during the long winters. Survival in these environments required not only physical endurance, but also strong social cohesion and cooperation within the community. In Algonquin culture, the community was central to survival. The sharing of resources, communal hunting, and mutual support were essential practices that ensured the well-being of all members. The winter months, however, posed significant challenges. Food could become scarce, and the relentless cold made even the most routine activities dangerous. In these conditions, the bonds of community were tested, and the temptation to act out of self-interest, even at the expense of others, could arise. The Wendigo legend emerged as a powerful moral lesson within this context. It served as a stark reminder of what could happen when individuals allowed their desperation or greed to override the needs of the community. The Wendigo was a manifestation of the ultimate transgression, cannibalism, which not only violated social and moral norms, but also represented a complete abandonment of one's humanity. Parents would tell their children tales of the Wendigo to instill in them the values of generosity, selflessness, and respect for the natural world. The Wendigo legend also reflects the Algonquin concept of balance, particularly the balance between the human world and the natural world. In Algonquin beliefs, the natural world was seen as a living entity, with its own spirits and forces that needed to be respected and honored. The Wendigo, with its endless hunger and destructive nature, represented a disruption of this balance, a force that threatened to consume everything in its path. The Wendigo also represented the balance between life and death. In Algonquin beliefs, death was a natural part of the cycle of life, and the spirits of the dead were honored and respected. However, the Wendigo was a perversion of this natural cycle, a creature that existed in a state of living death, neither fully alive nor fully dead. Its endless hunger and decaying body were signs of its unnatural state, a reminder of the importance of living in harmony with the natural order and respecting the cycles of life and death. The Wendigo legend has persisted through the centuries, evolving and adapting to the times. While originally rooted in the oral traditions of the Algonquin tribes, the Wendigo has since entered popular culture, appearing in literature, movies, and television. These modern interpretations often emphasize the horror aspects of the creature, focusing on its terrifying appearance and insatiable hunger. In literature, one of the most famous depictions of the Wendigo comes from Algernon Blackwood's 1910 novella, The Wendigo, which helped to popularize the creature in Western culture. In this story, the Wendigo is a force of nature, a malevolent entity that drives men to madness in the remote wilderness. This portrayal cemented the Wendigo's status as a symbol of the untamed, dangerous aspects of nature and the darkness within the human soul. The Wendigo has also become a figure in horror films and television shows, where it is often portrayed as a terrifying monster stalking its prey in the woods. These adaptations sometimes take creative liberties with the legend, adding elements such as shape-shifting abilities or giving the Wendigo a more beastly appearance, but the core themes of hunger, madness, and the loss of humanity remain. Despite its transformation into a pop culture icon, the Wendigo remains a powerful and enduring symbol in the cultures from which it originated. For many indigenous communities, the Wendigo is not just a creature of myth, but a representation of real and profound fears of starvation, isolation, and the loss of humanity. It also serves as a reminder of the importance of maintaining a strong sense of community and the dangers of succumbing to selfishness and greed. The Wendigo legend continues to be told and retold, both in its original cultural context and in new forms that reflect the concerns and anxieties of the modern world. Whether seen as a supernatural monster, a cautionary tale, or a metaphor for human behavior, the Wendigo's story resonates with audiences across time and cultures, ensuring that this terrifying creature will continue to haunt our imaginations for generations to come.